into order. We need to do a roll call
Jim Rowe,
here.
Ron Nuts,
Here.
PJ Keeler,
Yep.
Brenda Adams,
Here.
Suzette Billy, absent. Trees Perry, absent, but we expect. And Chris Watts absent, that is a quorum.
Do we know that Suzette and Chris are not coming?
Suzette and Chris will not be here.
Okay,
Suzette's busy working on her taxes.
yes.
We gave up some of that money we included in. the
I wanna
budget
get
the other
those
day.
bills out.
Right.
Have to get the bills out.
One of these times we'll have to not pass the budget to give
Whoa.
Suzette
I'll tell you what, one year it came down to the wire.
Oh, I remember that.
Whoa.
Yeah. Did you get any phone calls over that?
Called in adrenaline surge and steroids.
Okay, the October minutes. Motion to approve,
I'll make a motion to approve them as written.
Second.
all in favor,
Aye.
opposed, carried. CEDC administrative contract renewal,
Yeah, this is the identical contract that we submitted. I think this was previously approved in the August meeting, but it ran until the end of the year. So we're just trying to get approvals from the CEDC full board. We meet tomorrow. This is on their agenda. We just want to have on this agenda for today, and then it passes both bodies. We'll grab a signature from CEDC's board chair tomorrow, and then we'll arrange the second signature.
so there's absolutely no changes.
Just the dates.
My question on this, though, and I don't know if that's correct, but this says it just goes through 6 months period. Is that what we wanted or?
I think that's what we wanted to do, so that we get a better idea of, we haven't actually started operations yet.
Yeah.
So once we do, we'll get a better idea of.
Theory was if, and at that point, if we're doing more work, we would ask for
Okay.
more, but
Fair, I just didn't know.
we
if
didn't wanna, cause, and then if it
I
says.
think we had jumped in the middle of last year and I didn't know if you
If
were.
it says it's for 12 months, then, we don't have to come back and amend it.
Okay.
It doesn't look like, boy, you had a deal, why didn't you?
No, I just didn't know if it was
I think it was just to be,
correct.
Yeah.
Plan,
obviously, if, not knowing how much what's gonna be involved. If we had it for the full year, we'd have to,
Could be over or under finance.
well, someone could say, well, you
So you-
agreed to do it for the full year at that price, why are you getting a raise?
So you're just giving yourself a window to assess the volume of work and look at the fee again, re-examine it. I'll move it.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor,
I,
opposed, carried. Okay,
Thank you.
discussion, the V, RIP grant.
So nothing to approve here, but an update. So we talked about this grant a few times. It's for smaller landlords to renovate currently vacant units that they could be rented to income qualifying folks. Rupco applied for that. I guess the update here is that they won that grant. I don't think we've met since the award came out. So they applied for the full 5 million. They are administering it in 9 counties. So they anticipate being able to do 80 units. Obviously, for us to get more than kind of our population distribution average, which would be about 6 to 8 units, we'll really need to punch above our weight, do a lot of marketing, identify shovel-ready projects. The land bank's portion of this, we had talked about taking a piece of the land bank's capital budget and using that to supplement the grant subsidy from VBRIC. As far as I know, we're still,
No track for that.
yeah, okay. Because that's built into one of the other discussion items, which is the capital grant.
Because I think it's gonna make it a lot more competitive to do that. Because more people are gonna go for the 80 than the 60, and then that's not gonna be enough money to make a difference, so.
Yeah, I agree.
I was thinking
So
in code, we're talking about AMIs, I'm sorry, I
there,
didn't.
something did change with this grant between when it was announced and when the application came out. What initially in the description of the grant, landlords could not own more than a certain amount of units across the state. That's not true anymore. So now it's just a preference. So now you have to, and however you chase after that preference, I guess, as part of your grant narrative or part of your application narrative, if you're a landlord. So this will be open to landlords of any size with a stated preference for smaller.
Wow, that's a big
landlords.
change.
Huge change.
If this is on a point system, will you get more points if you're smaller or?
I think it's gonna be entirely up to how Rupco designs their program, and there is room for the program. Ooh, I don't wanna speak for them. I have a Zoom call with Faith Moore from Repco and John Parsons from Galvin. Galvin's going to be not administering this, but doing the local construction work. So we're all meeting on Wednesday. I think Repco and the state are already under contracts. This grant was announced 2 weeks ago, and I believe they already sent out the forms. So they'll have a much more robust picture of what exactly is in this program.
Can we try and influence that?
That was my hope. I don't know, the ADU program is very specific to the individual counties that we're working with. I don't know if they wanted the same thing for the VRIP. It might have, from my end, I wouldn't want to. That's just an administrative headache, but it'll be up to them. I'll try to make the case that. Can we tailor it?
How many counties are they gonna work for in this program?
9, it's basically the entire Mid-Hudson Valley region plus us.
So we get 6 to 8 projects
That's what I think.
Is
Total.
there some,
max.
If we're lucky.
is there some database of numbers that we can use to show them that's what we're entitled to and we should get?
That's just what it is based on population
That's what I mean,
distribution.
that's, so,
Yeah.
yeah, okay, so as long as there's some rational
Guaranteed.
basis as to.
Yeah, so anything more than that, we'll have to, like I was saying, shovel ready projects, who's ready to go, what other leveraging sources do they have? Those are all gonna be really attractive.
But to your point, we need competitive applications.
I mean, this whole thing could get eaten up in Newburgh and Poughkeepsie, right?
Right, yeah.
It's, we're really gonna have to make the case.
Well, but I also have to understand that. If that happens, then it's gonna be less apt for us to partner with them in the future.
So,
In the other county.
so I was understanding Mike's question a little differently.
point.
I wanna know if there's an implied reserve for 6 to 8 units per Columbia County. So,
Yeah, there's no minimum per county that I'm aware of.
so how is it based on population?
That's just population.
That's just what
distribution, so
you're saying, it should be, right?
That's what it would be if that was the metric. that
So
we
how do
could
we
use.
increase our competitive, other than getting out there in front and finding shovel-ready projects, how do we increase our competitiveness?
I can ask them, off the top of my head, I don't know if there's an answer to that.
That would be disastrous, I think, to announce this and to really promote this project and then not to get it.
To get done.
Yeah.
I don't think that will happen.
Okay.
But it would be great to be above that minimum threshold. So that's VRIP, so there's no window yet for when applications will be open to landlords, but we'll be talking on Wednesday about program shape and marketing. Insurance, we are so close, so got everything that we need, we just need to actually bind. Hopefully that happens in the next couple of days, we'll be reaching out to the underwriter that we went with this afternoon, as soon as we get done this meeting.
We did a bid, competitive bid, and what was it within $300?
They were so close, yeah. I think it might have been close.
Insurance is a commodity.
So that was insurance really quick. Capital grant, there's a couple spreadsheets in your packets. So the one that is in portrait mode is this is the budget that we've already, or the grant that we've already been approved for. So that's the $100,000 that we're waiting to enter into HCR with. That's why we need the insurance. It's the last piece of entering into that contract. So the landscape one is the actual capital budget, or excuse me, I got that backwards. So the new request column. Yeah, the budget's so thin, I have a hard time finding the numbers. The new request column is basically the capital budget that we'd be requesting. It's at that amount, our admin budget was $100,000. That's the maximum you can ask for if your land bank's regular budget is $499 or below. So I'm hoping that the 450 doesn't, and the 100 don't get added together. I think the 100 in admin is separate and apart from newer land banks. So for the 450, to keep us below that 500, 5% program delivery is all you can ask for. I've just put $5,000 in there for consultants. I don't think CEDC, the county program delivery, wouldn't be going to either of those entities, but if we if we bring in consultants, they can claim some of the program delivery, so I just put 5 in there, open the changes there. Property acquisition and even 100,000, we've identified a couple properties from the foreclosure list for this round. It sounds like in conversations with Chris, since the first foreclosure round be so early in 2025, there might be a second one. So I tried to build in enough acquisition funds for both rounds of that. Plus, if there are other properties out there throughout the year that we hear about that we might want to pick up. I just want to have a little bit extra there. Then the big piece is the 345 for stabilization and rehab. Some portion of that will be attached to the VRIP program to supplement that program, and the rest can be used to go into co-development, potential joint venture projects with some developers. Or just do some of the pre-development work. I didn't put anything in demolition. I wasn't anticipating the land bank to take on any actual structures at all, let alone stress structures. But we can change that if. And again, demolition, the land bank money doesn't need to be spent where the land bank can hold property. So if there were buildings that needed to be demolished in Hudson, the land bank could help fund that through a memo of understanding. But I didn't put anything in demo for now. But again, I can be talked off of that. That's what this piece is for.
So the new request is for the calendar year 2025, roughly?
Roughly.
And if we wanted to acquire a property and needed an appraisal, where does the appraisal fee come out of? Is that operating or is that out of acquisition?
I think that's gonna come out of the admin, so we've got some in there for pre-development. That OTPS category, which in this is the state spreadsheet. So the OTPS on the portrait spreadsheet is broken out, so you can see more of those categories. So other professional service contracts could be an appraiser, title searcher.
Okay, yes, yeah.
So it just depends on where you put it, but there are some line items for those activities.
And just thinking, doing the math optimistically, so if we were to get 6 to 8 of the VRIPs, that would be 150 to 200. Is the 145 enough for anything else we want to do?
On top of that, I
Yeah.
think so, because I think at most, I think the first year. So say we acquired 3 properties off the foreclosure list from the first round of foreclosures. The next round would most likely be in the 3rd or 4th quarter of the year. So those properties, if any money touched those properties, would be in subsequent years capital budget.
Okay.
So I think just the remainder would be for those, whatever parcels are acquired from the foreclosure list. If I raise that, I'm not sure what I would lower.
Okay.
And they have, in other areas, they've generally been willing to reallocate money within the budget.
Yeah, that's
Based on a request like you do at the county level.
As projects roll out.
Why do we want to stay under 499 again?
We requested $100,000 in admin, which is pegged to a land bank budget of below $500,000.
Okay,
And I didn't want to put in 499.99 because that's just giving some shit. I don't think the state looks at that.
the admin budget. How long does that, are we bound to that budget?
That's gonna run until the end of next June.
So June of 25?
Yeah, and you have to reapply. So you reapply every year for the admin budget for the first 3 years of your existence.
So we could, in May or June, whenever the
Could ask for
application
more.
is, we could ask for more, which would then fuel this next year.
That's right.
Okay,
Yeah, so if you ask for more, if we ask for more next year for the admin budget in anticipation of the next year's full budget being more robust, I think we'd have to have gotten a lot done in the first 6 months. Just the way the state kind of approaches these things. But if you spend a lot of money in that first 2 quarters, it's going to make the case fairly simple to make, and you can ask for more in the capital budget. So you just raise them both.
do we think our foreclosure sale will take place in the first quarter?
Yes.
Yes,
I think
the
so.
judge has signed off on it. Yeah.
Okay, so I know I keep hearing that phrase, the judges signed off, but I don't know what that means in terms of
That means that the list has been sent to them. They have to actually sign off to put the property in the county's name.
Once they sign it, it becomes our properties, then
No,
they
no,
make the
that-
decision.
Well, I understand that, but I'm just trying to understand, is that 30
Then we
days,
get
45
90
days?
days notice to the owner.
Oh,
They have 90
okay,
days to respond.
so that's 3 months in and of itself.
Right,
So we're talking about 4 months. We're
Then-
not gonna do
then it
this
goes
first
to
quarter.
auction.
It's gonna be second
then
quarter,
it goes to auction.
second quarter.
Second quarter.
Then it goes second quarter.
Yeah,
Okay, but early second quarter.
okay, but just thinking about timing and
And that's assuming the judges sign it by the end of the year. You know,
who are the judges on? Is it,
Still Howard and. Who's
Mike Howard and
Herman.
Herman? Okay,
I can blend,
Well,
some of this will blend into the next discussion topic, but I think we can take these together. It's a pretty good conversation. I think Chris pulled all the properties that the land bank was interested in already before he sent the notice to the judge. The
Yeah.
idea there was, yes, those properties haven't been discussed at the town level yet, but those are the properties that the land bank was interested in. If at the town level, they decide we actually don't want to transfer those to the land bank, they'll just be on the next round of foreclosure sales.
Right, he asked me,
We're trying to buy some
Yeah.
time.
you had discussed the possibility of looking at some of those properties. Now, have you talked to him lately?
Yeah, we spoke last Thursday or Friday on the phone.
Okay, okay.
So that's the other question I had, which was when can you have those conversations? At what point can you have the conversations with the towns?
So I guess this comes back to the question that I am not an expert in open meetings law. Mike, you're involved in this aspect of these kind of conversations. Property acquisition, property sales, is that something that you can
Well,
go into executive or can you? talk about that?
it's certainly, you can go in to discuss under the 8 provisions for executive session. Acquisition of property,
Yes.
and contracts are one of them.
Okay.
The real question for the land bank. And we'll have to get some input from the other land banks that are part of the association that we're members of. There is a provision that, any entity that's subject to the authority budget office, oversight. Has to give 90 days notice of its intention to sell a property,
Sell.
dispose of a property. So the land bank is titled to a property and you want to sell it to a developer. I've been, known to, the day we get the property,
Give
the
notice.
the day the day we know we're gonna buy it, even if we haven't owned it, we start the notice.
Right. so
Because it's our intent, that we don't know if we're gonna,
Clock's ticking.
yeah, because, you don't wanna. Takes 3 months to get it, then you have, if you do things sequentially, then you're gonna, you'll lose the developer's interest long before,
Which is why, because this is the first time out, I'm asking these questions.
yeah.
I'll have to check that when it comes to co-development opportunities. I'm not sure that
Yeah, well,
banks are subject to that. I
well,
think that's one of the special powers.
And then, one of the things that it's not just to give them notice, you have to give them documentation
Yeah.
as to, why you're selling it for less than, fair market value, if you are, or, when,
So would we have the conversation about the properties that that the land bank may potentially be interested in a closed session of this board? Which would then enable you or someone to go to the town representatives to talk to them? What's the process?
The only attorney in the room, dude.
I think we just let's get a hold of, Chris and get on the phone with, one of the land banks that have been operating for 2 or 3 years, and there's gotta be a roadmap that allows you to get it done without starting from scratch.
And how do we cover any potential loss if the land bank acquires one of these properties and somebody comes after us a year or 2 years from now and says that there should have been a profit there for them and they want it? How are we building in money to cover that potential? I mean, I don't see that being a reality, but yet I guess
Yeah.
anybody could make a legal argument, so.
The idea is that there would be no surplus because the land bank is just acquiring them for the back taxes.
Yeah,
So the only argument, and Chris and I had this conversation, this is very hypothetical.
and you're talking about vacant properties now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or really any kind of property.
Just remind me. The owl.
Oh, yeah. The process by which you determine if there's going to be a surplus, there are 2 ways. That was that amendment to Article 11 at the state level after foreclosure decision at the Supreme Court level. Chris is pretty sure that this process will basically satisfy.
Okay.
Yeah.
If we had an appraisal and we did that, and
Yeah, and I think we'll find out more between now and, when we have a conversation with a land bank association's attorney.
Okay.
Just to kind of dot the i's across the t's.
Is an appraisal a professional service?
Yes,
So we don't have to bid it?
depends on how much it is, but at the appraisals come in at $22,000 maybe. So you shouldn't have to bid that out.
we're following the procurement policy of CEDC, correct? That was
Uh,
decided earlier on.
Well, we don't, I mean, technically, we don't have to bid it either.
We're separate and distinct.
Yeah.
I know we are, but I thought that basically we were kind of looking at.
Well, we have to, as a not-for-profit, we have to have a procurement policy, whether it's modeled on
Yeah.
CEDC or it's our own, we have to have one. So I think that's a good
I
question.
thought we did touch on that earlier and we were gonna look at using.
Just use the county, so mirror the county,
So we probably have to adopt that,
yeah.
I wouldn't adopt the county, I would adopt.
Yours, yeah.
Yeah, right.
whichever one we adopt.
There will be there's a slate of policies that I haven't brought yet.
Okay.
That we'll get through.
We're discussing it,
Next
but-
year, yeah.
Well, no, remember, New York is one of the last 2, or maybe the only 2 states that has its own volume of not-for-profit corporation law. So there's many more requirements in New York State than there are in most.
Speaking of those requirements, we received an email from the authority's budget office about our end of year reporting
Yep.
requirements. By the time we got it, so there are certain windows for the ABO. There's one that's a 90-day window before the end of the year, and then a 60-day window after the beginning of your year. That email sort of came in between. And we've reached out to the ABO. The next steps there are they will email us and tell us what the reporting requirements are, how to do board training. That hasn't happened yet. So there are a few things that I think the timing wise will be a little bit unusual. You know, the land bank needs to approve its budget and adopt a budget for 2025. So these are some things that still have to happen at the administrative level that we're kind of waiting for the ABO to give us a guidance
You're gonna
on.
be ahead of that. You're gonna be ahead of the
Yeah.
budget.
Yeah.
We'll be in full compliance by the date that the final report has to be filled.
It's quite a ways out.
And it was 90 days from November 30th. So the main thing is that the only thing we're not in compliance with right now is having filed a budget.
Yeah.
And we're working on that as we speak. And we were created at a point in time where,
I'm transparent about it, so.
yeah,
That's all I got. There's no one from the public.
Maybe for the public.
Chris, the article that we saw this morning where Schenectady applied with a housing organization that Matthew Nelson now runs in Schenectady. They partnered with the land bank to get a $3.7 million VRIP grant.
I think that was they're so close, VPRP. So
Yeah,
it's a demolition grant. It's the
Okay.
vacant property removal program, I believe is what it's called. So that money can only be used for demos. The state has kind of taken a different tack on how land banks approach demolitions. They now don't want the demolition funding to come from normal land bank funding. They've created other programs that land banks can access for demolition only. So they actually don't want demolition funding to be included in these type of grant applications, although there is a line item for it. They would prefer that you use specific grant programs.
Is this the Matthew Nelson that was running? Okay,
from Kinder.
Kinder.
yeah,
He's a school board.
Yeah.
president. They said that they partnered with the Capital Regional Land Bank and the city of Schenectady to win the third largest grant in the state. And the only one awarded in the capital region. And it's turning to use the funds to rehab 60 apartments, turning them into homes that Schenectady residents can now be proud of. So I think it's the same one that the vacant rental improvement program.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah.
Oh, good for them.
No, but I'm trying to, let's find out what the role of a land bank is in that to see maybe that there's some leverage that we can,
I have an in at that land bank. It's run by my old boss at Troy.
and we have an in with the developer who wanted to be on our board at one point.
because rehab money is money we can always use.
Well, because I think we have to, one of the things here is, rehab is going to be an area where we can get on the ground quickly, and I know Supervisor Knott has been advocating that from the very beginning. And we also were talking with the Bank of Greene County because they do have a program for seniors to apply for funds to upgrade and restore, rehab their properties. And,
How would we know about that? Have they marketed that? I'm a
yeah, it's
senior.
on
and
their
a cus-
website. It's on-
No, but I'm a senior and a customer of Bank of Greene County,
Well, you probably don't
and I haven't gotten
qualify.
anything.
But,
I'm still over 70 and.
yeah,
haven't-
no, I think they had, there were, it's a grant, it's from their foundation.
Yeah,
So I didn't look at the details, but we had we now meet quarterly with the representatives of foundations over $10 million in the county. And
that's a great idea.
Don Gibson was sharing that information with us at the last meeting. It's basically Galvin, Bank of Greene County, Hudson River Bank and Trust,
What about the one in Hudson?
Spark of Hudson.
Spark of Hudson, yeah.
I think there are 10 or 12, well, there's 15 to 20 people that come to the meetings. We included the college and the hospital for fear that they would think that this might be an undertaking to have those similar people at the table who fund them, re-sprinkle their money somewhat in other directions. So I didn't want anyone to, we're focusing in on 3 areas. one, Berkshire County Community Foundation and the Funds of Green County are also at the, or Columbia County are at the table. They're looking to do 2 grants in each town to, a single parent. Of $600 a month for 2 years. They don't see it as a basic income, program. They see it as, and there are more restrictions on it as to how the money can be used. It's to be used to take your kids to school or get to, so what we're asking each of the foundations at the table is, would you take on 1 or 2, $25,000 to do 1 or 2 of these people in each town? So
When will that roll out?
it'll roll out in, for the next school year. So it'll roll out, April or May will be the application process. And the idea is kind of like, Tech Valley High, and there were school superintendents who said, well, how do I pick the 2 people out of all the people in my school who could benefit from going to Tech Valley High? Several school districts didn't participate because of that. But, this, would be able to tie into housing expenses as well. And they wanted, Berkshire Taconic wanted, and the Fund for Columbia County wanted to do it this way, so it didn't become Hudson centric. Certainly there'll be 2 people from Hudson that could be eligible.
Is it gonna go through the school districts or is it gonna go through the towns?
They're still working on that.
I hope it goes through the
Yeah,
towns, not the
well,
school districts.
because the school districts don't match up necessarily
No.
with, there's multiple towns that have 2 school districts, but.
Or in their town,
Some have
yes,
4.
Yeah,
yes.
so I think that,
Don't want the kids to
again,
get lost.
the idea was, so it's, that program, then there was childcare and education. And really perhaps focusing in on, early childhood education, and then healthcare. And, the hospital foundation is also represented in Dr. Urchel and Brian Mahoney, who's the CFO for Columbia CMH, attend the meeting as well. And I didn't know if it would work. It was really Carl Florio's idea from the, Hudson River Bank and Trust with Sid Richter and Tony Jones. And they said, would we facilitate it? And we were, the last 4 meetings, we've had just about everyone we invited.
Great idea.
I think if they partner on a couple of small projects, the idea was, could we come up with a $5 million project over 3 to 5 years that they would each, based on their proportionate size, put money in to do something transformational instead of trickling out money to. They still trickle money out to keep people going, but is there something that as a group they could all get behind to be transformation?
But also something you can point to
Yeah.
as a completed project, and also something that leverages that kind of work in the greater community.
And when you work together with people on a project like that, you build the trust and confidence to do the next one.
Leverage. Do you like the motion to adjourn?
I don't need one. Chairman. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. Second. All in favor?
Hi.
Opposed? Carried. Will you do me a favor?
Sure.
You got these on the calendar way up?